Hello, my name is Jason Hinman. I'm the founder and president of Sage Cerebrovascular Diagnostics. I'm delighted to be here today and share with you the work we've been doing at Sage Cerebro. Our company is focused on developing blood-based diagnostics for brain health. We're a platform company with the ability to uniquely identify and intelligently cluster molecular signals from brain blood vessels that contribute to disease. Our first diagnostics product is focused on dementia. Nearly 6 million cases in the US, 20 times as many at risk, largely due to a long pre-symptomatic period. And with nearly 100,000 miles of brain blood vessels, it's increasingly recognized that vascular brain injury is a key contributor to dementia. The dementia diagnostics market is presently $12 billion and projected to triple with the introduction of multiple new drugs into the market. And our blood tests will be marketed directly to consumers who want to learn more about their risk, or MD providers taking care of patients at risk for dementia. Our solution addresses two core issues in the field. 40% of the risk of dementia is modifiable, but not without knowledge of the risk provided by diagnostics. Additionally, the average time from symptom onset to specialist diagnosis is 18 months. Our multiplex blood test built on the Luminex assay platform can directly address these core issues using IP-protected panel of molecules that directly measures brain vascular injury. And with 94% specificity for the detection of the brain injury that should be pictured on an MRI that didn't show up, and I'll show you later, that brain injury that increases the risk of cognitive impairment and dementia, we can resolve millions in healthcare savings by improving access and accelerating the time to diagnosis. Our competitive advantages include KOLs in an emerging market, worldwide patent protection of our IP, and an exclusive UC license. Our competitors have focused on measuring proteins that accumulate in the brain after the disease starts, while we're focused on molecules that measure current and future risk assessments, potentially due to modifiable risk factors. We've established significant traction with the adoption of the technology, of our core technology, resulting in nearly $7 million in federal funding to my UCLA laboratory. And we partnered with Celum Biomedical, a California CLIA lab, to develop an LDT assay and engaged other leading national diagnostic labs. We have an early path to revenue with existing CPT codes for reimbursement, and we've engaged leading pharma firms for companion diagnostic applications. As founder, I've worked to establish an expert team with scientific and business expertise, including in the diagnostics field. Our upcoming milestones include finishing our assay prototyping at LA Biolabs, moving towards an LDT product launch in Q4 with our partner Celum Biomedical, while continuing to develop a clinical validation study and nurturing other corporate partnerships. And we're seeking seed funding to assist in LDT product launch and preparation for the clinical validation study. I look forward to taking your questions.
Could you back up and show exactly what the diagnostic device looks like? I might have missed that as you're putting it up.
So the diagnostic device is built on the Luminex platform. So it's a liquid immunoassay.
Got it. So you mentioned dementia as your first market. So is this, you have a full plan for future diseases, or what does that look like from a long-term strategy?
So the way we conceptualize our IP protection is a panel of molecules that measure vascular brain injury, the signals produced by blood vessels when injured. That has applications for stroke. It has applications potentially for traumatic brain injury. We focused on this market because we feel it's directly applicable, and so the preliminary data that we've worked on is applicable to that area.
What are the actionable steps that patients can take once they go through the test and they find out that they are at risk?
So presently, it would be aggressive risk factor modification. The core panel of molecules that are covered under the IP are inflammatory signals that are a result of chronic cerebrovascular risk, high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes. And so more aggressive steps by MD providers or patients to aggressively control those risk factors would be covered under our patent applications.
Jason. So in terms of what you're detecting, you're detecting proteins or,
Correct.
okay, so
Circulating proteins.
circulating, and these are validated targets, or are you in the process of validating them?
Can you clarify what you mean by validated?
Yeah, so basically, are you planning on running a study to demonstrate that these actually predict, I mean, in terms of what getting regulatory approval for this, how is that going to, because you said we're not saying there's dementia, we're predicting future, is that right?
Correct.
So how do you go about sort of validating that and demonstrating that it's actually efficacious?
Correct. So we've prepared a small cross-sectional clinical validation study that would focus on a diagnostic application, indicating present risk for future events. A larger CMS, study that CMS would consider for full reimbursement would require a longitudinal study. There are mechanisms and examples of companies recently that have done those in parallel, and to execute would depend on funding.
And so my second question is, are you planning to partner one program with a bigger player as a way to leverage that to grow the company, or are you planning to, go ahead, or is the plan to basically have an exit where another player would take on the larger investment required to get approval?
I have a go-to-market here. I think we've certainly engaged some national players about the possibility of pursuing. Most of the diagnostic labs would not pursue that type of a clinical validation study. So there isn't a good model for doing that without a partner, likely in pharma. So when you turn to pharma, it would mostly be a companion diagnostic potentially. And we've had preliminary discussions with Biogen about that application.
So regarding your business model, you're launching with an LDT, and you had mentioned earlier that all of the panels, the markers on your panel have CPT codes.
Correct.
Are there any novel markers in your panel? Are they all?
Our IP includes novel markers that are not that there are not existing CPT codes.
Okay.
The platform is scalable, so we would consider adding those on. We
you're-
focused on the the most tractable plan at the moment.
Okay, so but your whole test itself would be the combination of all your analytes and your building risk indices, essentially.
Correct.
Okay. And then your validation study is to then go to the 510K.
Correct.
Which you can deploy before that. You can actually be in practice as an LDT.
Yes.
Okay. Nice work.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry if I missed this. What stage are you at right now, and what are you trying to do next? What's the next step?
Yeah, so we have raised some capital, identified a CLIA partner. We believe we can get through at least the early stage of LDT launch. So we're seeking funding to scale that up and then begin the preparation for the clinical validation study, which we've fully planned and budgeted for. I'm happy to share the cost with folks as needed. Thank you.